So we kind of got to start off right off the bat with the biggest news. Anytime CM Punk speaks, that seems to break the internet in a way. So he gave an interview about yesterday with Errol Hawani, talking about his time in AEW, Brawl Out, All In, his return to WWE, and had some very interesting words for Tony Khan and how AEW is ran and how they are two different businesses and they take two different approaches from indie wrestling entertainment. So right off the bat, I really wanted to dive into what everyone's thought was after they saw the interview. Do you feel that he is a truth teller or he is a hypocrite? Danny.
I wouldn't call him a hypocrite, but I would definitely say that he's somewhat of a truth teller. It was nice to hear his side of things. I don't believe in all of it. I believe that he's kind of playing off to be a little bit of the victim or a little bit innocent, however you want to call it. But I think there is some truth to what he said. I think there's a mix of both.
What about you, Mr. Richard?
Let me start by saying, and let me be very, very clear, I am not an AEW fan. All right. So anyone that is thinking that I'm going to praise AEW, I'm gonna just give you a warning right now. That ain't happening. I think what he said about Tony Khan is 1,000% correct, because that was something that I felt when I saw how Tony Khan handled the situation with CM Punk the first time he had an incident. And then everybody was wondering to see, well, what is he going to do? Because he wanted to be too buddy and friendly with a lot of the people, a lot of the wrestlers. So I think he was 100% correct about that and how they run. As for the business side, I mean, I don't really know how the business is in terms of what draws, what gets ratings. So I can't say for sure that I know that he is 100% right on that. I know a lot of people have had responses on their podcast, because I did see Busted Open Radio earlier today, and they say he is 1,000% correct about the business, about when you're doing stuff on TV versus stuff like that. So, I mean, I know that's left up to interpretation, but overall, I thought the interview was great. I mean, more so than anything else, the interview shows me that this guy is a changed person now, because of how he talked about how he felt coming back to WWE, how he talked about what his mindset is, how he views it now, that he's not trying to come in and steal a main event spot. He is a little bit humble in those regards. We can say he has an ego, absolutely. But again, obviously, I don't really think it's a big deal, in terms of what, I mean, one thing that he said in that interview, which I respect, is that if you hear rumors about me, you think I'm a horrible person, then that's great. He's not trying to change people's opinion of him. And I think that is good, because there's always going to be somebody that disagrees with this guy or disagree with anybody to an extent. So I didn't have a problem with that. But overall, I thought the interview was good. It was interesting. And he validated some things that I thought about AEW. So I didn't have any issues with it.
Oh, the AEW slander. For me, I thought it was very forthcoming for someone who has an NDA, and he kind of described is what I choose not to speak about versus what's in the NDA. So he completely shut down what happened at the Brawl Out fight between him and the Elite and everyone. Larry the dog, I think, even had to sign an NDA. So I do find it really interesting that he opened up as much as he could, because I wasn't expecting really that much from him. I thought he was going to kind of pull a Tony Khan and pivot, and I can't talk about that, but let's talk about WWE. And he didn't do that at all. But I do feel that there's one thing that he was lacking, and that is accountability. You cannot be 100% right 100% of the time. There are actions in there that I believe that was both Tony's fault and also CM Punk's fault. And I think that if he would have had a bit of accountability with that, I would have had an easier time believing what he said. But he has this way of, it's this guy, it's this guy. And this is, we've seen this throughout multiple years of him blaming everyone else but him. And so if he truly evolved, then he would have at least said, hey, I held my responsibility with this, but he didn't really do that. So I just want to kind of quickly go into some things that he said, just quickly touch upon, was we don't know much about what happened with the fight with the Elite, but he did talk about, the media and the fake reporting and how that really is triggering for him. What was interesting was he was injured during that match, and we know that he had to go away for a while, and that was when he was suspended, but he was also injured during that time. That 6 months, no one in the company spoke to him, including Tony Khan. And that's where I feel, as a business person, that is not what you do. I believe as a business person and the owner and the manager, and this is your name on the company, you have to find a way to rein in grown men. And we sit down at the table and we have a conversation. And I strongly do believe that the Elite and Hangman play a part in that isolation as well. Now, I don't know the intricacies of everything, but to me, it would have felt like, as a business owner, we're going to sit down, let men be men, because at the end of the day, it is about making money. And they had a very hot opportunity to make this one of the biggest feuds of the year. But that didn't happen. So kind of what are your thoughts on the handle of that and that 6 month isolation where no one has called anyone? He tried to reach out and lawyers got involved, and it was just complicated. Richard?
Well, I agree 100% of what you said. The business definitely should have stepped up to the plate. But when he described the situation about what happened with Jack Perry and the fact that they were relying on him to now talk to Jack Perry, this is what the job is supposed to be of Tony Khan. And that's why I say he's looking at these wrestlers as friends instead of being a business owner. And that is, you cannot be a friend. And I mean, you can be friendly, but at a certain point in time, you got to understand you're running a business here. You got to be serious and you try to get people in line. And his idea to give CM Punk a show, and I know we've had conversations about this off air. I mean, I know that when they created that Collision show, I knew that show was for CM Punk. I think everybody knew that was for CM Punk. So to hear him say, oh yeah, this is a show, this was his resolution to just put me on a different show, it's kind of like ridiculous that that's what the resolution was. I understand they still had some drama. There were reports about there was some conversations that happened. Don't really know if those reports are accurate. If he did at some point talk with the Elite and some people, they just at least had somewhat of a conversation, but nothing was ever squashed. So that's why I say I do believe some stuff that he said about AEW. We definitely can say that he probably exaggerated some things as well. But as far as the stuff with Tony Khan, I 100% think that he is accurate about that, just because I understand Tony Khan is a nice guy. I believe that you have had an opportunity to be in some of these interview sessions that he's had. I heard he's a very nice guy. But the thing is, when you're running a business and you have a lot of people, a lot of wrestlers have egos, you have to talk to these people and get on the same page with them, let them know that you're in charge here, and you got to do a better job of that. So that's why I say, yeah, it's an unfortunate situation. But the last point I will say before you go to Danny, I didn't know this interview was coming, but when I knew that he was having this interview with Ariel, I already knew he was going to talk about a lot of stuff, because this guy is who he spoke to initially when he left WWE. I mean, this is a while back. He's had interviews with this guy in the past. So I knew that guy was going to get some answers out of him on some stuff. I didn't know to what extent he was going to be able to talk about certain things. But I think it was a very good interview in terms of giving you an idea of his point of view, and then of how he views the business now. Because like he said when his return promo, he's not here to make friends, he's here to make money. That's very clear. But what he talked about, how WWE operates as a business, how they are trying to make money and do all this other stuff, I really think there is a lot of knowledge there. And obviously him coming back and being able to talk to Triple H, being able to talk to Shawn Michaels, that's a very big deal, I think, as to why he was so comfortable in coming back. But we'll see what happens.
Martinez?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% believe. I one thing I do respect about CM Punk, no matter what I think about him, is that I would always expect him to be blunt, and I will always expect him to tell his truth, like what he believes. So there's no sugarcoating with him, and that I do love that about him. I do also love that he tries to be as professional as possible. And he tries to. He knows he's there for money. He's not there to make friends, and that's kind of like, I think everybody should have that mindset when you go to work. You're there to work and make money, and if you make friends along the way, great. Like that's just, what did he say? That's the sprinkles on the cupcake is what he said pretty much. Like that's great. So that was exciting to hear that he was coming out with an interview. So I was excited to listen to it when Dana told me about it. I also believe as well 100% that Tony is not managing the company properly. I was having that discussion again with Dana, and offline, and one of the things that I mentioned, and I didn't go into too much detail, but I believe Tony is just a billionaire playing with toys. I think he's literally just hiring. He's a huge fan. I love that about him. He's a huge wrestling fan, but he's buying these wrestlers like they were action figures, and he's playing with them, and that's all he's doing. And that's part of the interview that CM Punk had, was that he said that he doesn't know what the direction or the goal of the company is. He guesses it's probably just to make great matches, but is that it? Like, he doesn't know. Nobody knows. So Tony is just playing with his toys, and he's having a good time with all the money that he has. And I don't think he really has a sense of direction of where the business is going. So I 100% believe that he doesn't know what he's doing. Aside from that, his maturity, like I think CM Punk's maturity has changed a lot too when it comes to I think he had to learn the hard way, the experience of the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And he saw that with AEW, so now he's back in WWE, especially now with new management, with he who shall not be named is gone now. So like things are hopefully getting better for him.
Yeah. And also, speaking of he who shall not be named, I thought he gave an amazing response to that whole incident. It was a really interesting segue from he who shall not be named to Chris Benoit to Jeffrey Dahmer. But kind of to touch upon the bigger. Oh, Richard, you have something to say?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, yeah, I did like that he made that comparison as well and how he described it. I mean, I remember all the stuff with Chris Benoit. It's very horrifying. And I did see the Raw they were talking about where the wrestlers were crying, and then they find out like a day or so later, yeah, this guy is a complete monster. So, yeah, I think that was good. I think that was a good response.
It was an excellent response, and just like because it was heartbreaking. I was there in the thick of it when that happened, and Jesus, that was tough. But wanted to go on really quickly about kind of what you touched upon, which was how the companies are ran differently. One of the biggest quotes that stood out the most was, "If you're some goof saying you had a 5-star match and the building is a quarter full, we're not in the same business." Whew. Here is what I thought was really interesting about that. I think that AEW and WWE obviously are two different companies, and there's nothing wrong with being two different companies. There's nothing wrong with being an alternate. You know, you watch WWE for, I don't know, 60 years. Here's something different. We all have different tastes and things that we like and dislike. Great, that's wonderful. But here's the thing here. I feel that, yes, as you guys said, Tony Khan is buying up wrestlers just out of the blue, and this is his own fantasy match. My issue is you have to know the audience. And your audience may be different than your fantasy booking. There's nothing wrong with that. The thing is, it started off as we're meshing together my fantasy and what the audience wants. but somehow that line just got further away from each other. And it just became what Tony's vision is completely without fully listening to the audience. Now, does every wrestler need a 20-hour package explaining who they are? No. Do we need massive storylines to explain every match? No. But I think that there needs to be a balance. And that is what a lot of people are having an issue with. So, from both of you, what I really wanted to know is, what did you think about his quote about the 5-star matches with a quarter full building? Because the audience is not there. You can talk numbers and ratings and financials all you want, but I got 4 eyes. You guys got eyes too. It's not fully full all the time.
I love how, and WWE does this too, so I'm not just singling out AEW, but I love how these companies can lie to the fans, the audience, when they have to set those cameras up just perfectly to make it look like it's not an empty arena. So they have to move people off their seats, they have to set them up perfectly, and then it looks like a full sold out arena sometimes. So it's like it's strange that they lost their way, and it's I 100% agree about the 5-star match quote. That's one of the things that has happened, is that they focus so much on just the matches that they lost their way on everything else. And I'm gonna admit, like Richard, he says he's not a fan of AEW. I don't know if you were originally a fan, maybe, or you were excited about the prospect of it, because I sure was. I was so damn excited about this company, and I think every wrestling fan was, because they can see, or at least picture, a future with amazing storylines and amazing just everything. And the matches were there, but then slowly, little by little, that's all I saw was just really good matches every now and then, and just way too many dangerous spots, just so many dangerous spots, so many crazy spots. And a lot of people say this, it's a spot fest. That's pretty much what every match is. And this is the way people gain recognition nowadays. And I don't think Tony Khan is responding to the fans right now when it comes to that. Like, stop with that. Like, you're gonna burn through your wrestlers really fast, and you're not giving us any story, you're not giving us anything else. And yeah, I could go on with that.
Good, Jared.
So I do agree with the quote that was made. I do want to clarify one thing. Like I said, I don't like AEW. I will definitely admit they did an excellent job with the signings they have this year. Those were some great signings. But the reason why I don't like AEW is, like you said, Danny, the spot fest, because I saw a lot of those matches they had at the last pay-per-view. I saw the highlights of the moves, and I'm like, man, this is some dangerous moves. Obviously, these guys are professionals, so they're not going to get injured every time, but it's like, why do all of that? Just go out of your way. It doesn't make any kind of sense to me. And then the other thing is that, from a storytelling standpoint, I want this company to make decisions that make sense at the right time. We have a storyline going on now where you have Swerve Scott, who is going to eventually get his one-on-one shot against Samoa Joe. That's fine. But I think this guy should have already won that belt, because you had him in a previous pay-per-view. You threw in Adam Page once again, a guy who he has already beaten twice. And I think a lot of people are saying, why haven't they pulled the trigger yet and just gave Swerve the belt? Well, I expect it to happen at Dynasty this month. And that will be a sold-out show, by the way. And I heard that Dana will be in attendance. So I look forward to hearing what she has to say about the live event. But I just want to be clear. When I say I don't like AEW, I definitely understand the potential, because I actually like a lot of people that are in AEW, some of the wrestlers, and I wish them well, but I don't really know what they're doing in terms of the clear direction of what they want to do with this company. It can very well improve over time, or it can get worse, or it can stay the same. But I do think they will definitely feel some pressure to continue to improve. because they're looking at the competition with WWE. They may, and I do want to make a comment because I did see after that CM Punk interview yesterday, a lot of the wrestlers at AEW coming out and saying AEW has changed my life. That made me wonder, did Tony Khan tell them, hey, I need you to respond to this? Or I mean, I was confused about that, but yeah, I do hope they are successful, but I don't have a lot of interest in watching because I haven't seen something yet that makes me want to watch. But we'll see if that changes in the future. It can definitely change. Yeah.
I just want to say I am an AEW fan, so beat up on those two, not me.
Do you mind? Do you mind if I ask why?
See, here's the thing. I'm like you, Danny. I was team AEW. Every match, every show. Remember the Dark, and then After Dark, whatever. Remember the 2 YouTube shows, Elevation and Dark. Watched it repeatedly. I'm there. I'm like, oh, these are wrestlers that I felt would not have gotten a chance to shine in WWE at that time. Especially with Vince, he who should not be named, running that company and everything else. And these are true talents that you are kind of hindering because of their look, because of their style. So for me, that's why I loved AEW. Then we got into these matches were great and amazing, and the storylines that they told were really great and amazing. And then you started adding more people, and I'm like, I don't know who this person is. I'm not going to complain because you didn't do a video package. That caused me to research, and we have a thing called YouTube, and watch their matches and see what they can bring in. So to me, it was like that was a true alternative. You're bringing us something that we've never seen before from people that would have never really made it in WWE. And at the time, it was giving good storylines at that time and that moment. And with every signee, it was like, oh, it's going to get bigger and bigger. And we had homegrown talent. Darby Allin. What the heck is a Darby Allin? Who's an MJF? Wasn't that kid on Rosie O'Donnell? Why is he a wrestler? Why is he singing? And even remember the segments, there was weird things where they would go into a full musical. And then they had other segments that was just really great but unique storytelling. And that's what grabbed me. I love storytelling. That's why I watched WWE as a kid. Kane and Undertaker, that you couldn't tell me that wasn't real. Big Boss Man and that whole Big Show situation with the grave. Yay. But after a while, we just lost that. It became match after match, champion for champion. Why are there so many belts? And WWE has its flaws. Plenty of more flaws than what AEW has. It's a 5-year company versus a 200-year-old company. So they have more flaws as well. But I just started to see a decline in my interest because the story wasn't there. And I know you don't need stories for everything, but just give me a reason as to why you're fighting. We all know the storylines are not real, but why? Keep me in that world. And yes, I can always be amazed by the matches, but I need a little bit something more. Or it's just match after match after match. I can kind of watch a boxing match if I wanted that, a UFC fight. If I really wanted that, Europe, and I know you don't brand yourself as entertainment. You have that whole entertainment and wrestlers. Fine, cool, but I need something. And that's kind of was the issue for me. I'm tuning in for really great matches, but I kind of want some story to go with the matches. And that's why, and again, WWE has 200 more years of experience. And let's not forget, not just a couple years ago, WWE was in the toilet. That's why AEW was successful, because WWE was failing so immensely. So I do think that AEW can recover. Look at WWE, even the highs and lows with he who must not be named, who was in the company at the time. We saw greatness, and we saw this is garbage poop. We saw literal dog food being poured on people. So I think that, AEW is not the worst of the worst, and I don't think it'll ever be the worst of the worst, but there is a lot of room for improvement that I would like to see. So that for me is kind of why I still stick with AEW because I do like the matches.
That's fair.
And I like it, but we need a little bit something to keep me from, I can watch the pay-per-views, but I need something else.